Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome back to Marvel Champions Sinister Motives Expansion Part 2. So if you checked out Part 1, we kind of went over the brief idea of what campaigns are. We went over our one hero, Ghost Spider, Gwen Stacy, and Spider-Man Miles Morales. And now we're going to go over the villains. So again, this will be heavy spoilers, of course, because we're going to go over what's in the actual campaign. So, of course, there's a little comic book. I'm not going to sit there and go read through all of it. You can get that when you get there. But our first villain is Sandman. So we get a fight up against him. So let's see what he does. So we're going to get a bunch, of course, Spider-Man themed set. We're going to get a bunch of Spider-Man themed villains. So why not start off with Sandman? William Baker, I believe? Unless they changed his name. They keep changing who he is half the time, it seems. Alright, so here's Sandman, whatever, version 1, part, difficulty 1. 1 steam, 2 attack with a condition. Sandblast. Forced interrupt. When Sandman attacks, that attack deals indirect damage. If your identity takes any more damage from the attack, resolve the Surging Sands ability on city streets. So he has 16 hit points per player. So we'll see what the Surging Sands does in just a moment. His level 2 ups his attack to 3. Also, when he's revealed, Surging Sand hits, otherwise it has the same effect. Goes up to 18 hit points per player, and his level 3 plays 1 sand counter on Surging Streets, and then it resolves, otherwise the rest is all the same. Goes up to 19 hit points. Sorry, I got a thing on my camera, it won't go away. He's also just a criminal. I'm surprised they didn't at least have maybe a leak on there, but maybe they don't ever put a leak on villains. Alright, so that's Sandman. So he's not gonna steam a lot. He's not a brainy guy. He's gonna do some attacks. But his Surging Sands is gonna be the big thing. So we're gonna look at that before we look at his main steam. As this is the focus of his deck. Surging Sands says location, special, place 1 sand counter here. Discard cards from the top of the encounter deck equal to the number of sand counters here. So every time he does damage, ooh, that actually has a different effect. I guess these do have different effects. I thought they looked like they're the same. So deal Surging Sand. Says, when Sandman attacks, the attack does indirect damage, and take any more damage, put it on Surging Streets. So that's the same. Yep. The third one, though, is a little bit different, it looked like. When Sandman attacks, the attack gains overkill. If your identity takes any more damage from the attack, resolve Surging Sands on the city streets. So it gains overkill. So that way, if it defeats you, it's also going to do more. And hit somebody else. But then, yeah, so when they attack, it resolves it, and then the last one puts a counter on there. Every time you get counters on there, it's going to make you discard cards to the top of the encounter deck, which burns through it quicker, which then will accelerate it, which will burn it through even quicker. So you're going to lose the game a lot quicker that way. Hero action. Exhaust a character you control. Remove a sand counters from here equal to that character's attack. So basically, kind of like essentially like thwarting. You can do a different type. You can try and focus on just cleaning up the sand rather than fighting or doing anything else. So that's going to become very important in his deck. So his main steam is Hapless Pedestrians. You can use Sandman 1, 2, or 3, however you want to do that. City and Chaos and a standard encounter sets. One modular set is down to earth. Search. Search for city streets, put it into play, and place 4 sand counters. Search with 4 on there. So we have a Sandman floods the city streets with rushing sands, putting innocent bystanders in great danger. After an acceleration token is placed on a steam, deal 3 indirect damage to the first player. If this stage is not complete, is complete, players lose the game. So it starts with 2 per player, and it gains an acceleration of +1 per player. It's going to keep gaining them acceleration tokens. So Sandman's goal is to burn through the deck as quick as possible. Alright, and then we're going to get 2 copies of Sandform, which are going to say attach to Sandman. Force Interrupt. When you deal any emotive damage to Sandman, discard Sandform instead. Resolve the Surgeon Sand's ability. Boost, reveal this card. So yeah. He definitely wants to just activate that ability as often as possible. So then he's also going to get 4 copies of Sand Clone. So these are minions, 1 attack, or 1 steam, X attack, 3 health. X is equal to the number of sand counters on city streets. So the first time these guys come out, they're going to be 4 attack. So when you keep removing them counters, you can make them less and less. When defeated, resolve Surgeon Sands. Also, you want to make sure you probably spend time removing them counters before you defeat these guys. But as you don't defeat them, one, so they have less attacks, so they don't hit you as much if they do hit you. And 2 is because they don't activate and do a lot of stuff. If you want to get to me, you gotta go through me. Alright, then he's going to have some side steams. He's going to get Dirt Trap. A beige billow floods the streets around you. Everywhere you turn, Sandman awaits. When defeated, resolve Surging Sand's ability on the city. Resolve it again. So it's going to hit it twice, but you have to deal with this one as a crisis icon. It only has 1 threat on it, but the fact that you got to stop, take time to take care of that, because you have to deal with that first, and then it's going to activate that twice. And we got 2 copies of those. We have 1 copy of Tidal Sands. When revealed, place X additional threats here, where X is equal to the number of sand counters on the streets. And this should draw an extra encounter every time. So the more counters are on there, when this hits, the bigger this, hardest is going to be to take out, plus it's going to keep drawing an extra card every turn. We have 1 copy of Sand Slide. When revealed, place 2 sand counters on city streets, then resolve Surgeon Sand's ability. At least 1 Sandman card was discarded this way, you are stunned. Boost, resolve this when revealed ability. Sandstorm. It's a treachery. When revealed, deal X indirect damage among players, divided as you choose, where X is equal to the number of sand counters on city streets. If there are no sand counters, place 3 on it and shuffle the card into the encounter deck. So at some point, this might make you think, hey, it might be worth leaving at least 1 on there at all times. And then 2 copies of Sand Smash. So when revealed, Alter Ego, resolve the Sand Surge ability. This card gains Surge. If a hero, Sandman will attack you with +1. I will bury you. Yeah. So he's not a very difficult villain. Not saying he's not going to be hard. There's not a lot of big mechanics. But I also think, like, the very first villain you fight in the game is Rhino. Sandman's also a very straightforward Spider-Man villain. So they kind of work well, like, kind of back and forth. Alright, so then we're going to look at some of the encounters. So the encounters you can put in this set is City in Chaos. Has a side scheme. Panic in the Streets. Treat the printed text box of each location support and each persona support as if they were blanks. Versus these 2 guys, they have a bunch of support cards, couple locations. So this one could kind of suck to fight against. We are also going to get a minion. We're going to get the Rhinos, who now we can finally play as him in any deck versus just as the villain. Kind of funny that I just mentioned him. Criminal Elite, no scheming, but he has 3 attack and 8 health. He has Steady, so he requires 2 status cards, and Rhino's attacks gain Overkill and Piercing. So as he takes guys out, he's going to get rid of tough status and do damage over them. Yeah, so you want to deal with him quickly. Then we have Calling in Favors. When revealed, Rhino schemes with 2 steam. If Rhino is not in play, search the encounter deck and discard pile for the Rhino minion and put him into play, engage with you. I'll only help you if you let me break things and take them. And then he's got 2 copies of Now or Never. Peril, when you resolve this, other players cannot help you. When revealed, choose place 1 acceleration token on the main scheme, or exhaust a character you control and spend 1 resource of any type. So that'll be that one. Alright, our second encounter is Down to Earth. So this is a common criminal, so we're actually going to get 3 copies of this. This is a nice one, you just mix into whatever set you'd like. So 0 steam, 1 attack, 3 health. Surge comes in, draws another card, so that kind of sucks, but otherwise its stats aren't too bad. Alter Ego Action, spend 1 fist resource to deal 3 damage to common criminal. If this minion is defeated this way, choose to either draw 1 card or remove 3 threat from the side scheme. This is kind of neat that you can, as a Alter Ego, you can take these guys out and actually gain a bonus for doing it that way. Just something like, hey, look, they're running by you, just like trip them as like, you know, as Gwen, you know, or Peter Parker or something. That's a fun little thing. There's an obligation. I love that they start throwing these into the encounters. Friends and family. When in hero form, increase the resource cost of each event you play by 1. Alter Ego Action. Discard 1 identity-specific card from your hand to discard this obligation. You have to do what you have to do, and I know that. I won't stop you from doing it, but you can't stop me from worrying about my baby. Ronnie Williams. That's Riri Williams, or Ironheart's mom. So that's a fun little extra obligation. It's not super hard to deal with, but it is a hindrance. We have Volunteer Work Side Scheme. You cannot thwart this scheme. Alter Ego Action. Spend 2 resources of any type. Remove threat from the scheme equal to your Alter Ego's recovery. If your identity has a civilian trait, draw 1 card. So these are really fun because they're all dealing with the Alter Ego having to deal with stuff. Threat or Menace. When revealed, you may change form. If you are in hero form, place 2 threat on the main scheme. If you are in Alter Ego form, you cannot change during your next turn. I know it. You know it. Spider people are nothing but lousy crooks. After all, you've gotten to hide your face. You must be up to no good. J. Jonah Jameson. And then the last one in this set is Loose Ends. When revealed, search the encounter deck discard pile, set aside area, and remove from game area for a copy of your obligation, and then reveal it. During that turn, if you change into Alter Ego form, discard 1 random card from your hand. If your obligation was not revealed this way, gain a Surge. Another way to get that obligation of yours in the way and messing you up. So yeah, fun little extra encounter you can add. Alright, our next villain. So after we've defeated the Sandman, we have Shuffle Osborn. Oh, and it is Venom attacks. So we have scenario 2 with Venom. Mention is boost cards on your identity, so some cards will tell you to put boost cards onto your card. They stay there until the force interrupt from the main scheme instructs you to move them to Venom. So there is that. So level 1 Venom, who's a symbiote type, 17 hit points per player, 1 steaming, 2 attack, toughness, and vengeance. Force response. After you attack and damage Venom with a card you control, place 1 face down boost card on your identity. Venom level 2 gains an extra steam. Also gains Steady. When revealed, search the encounter deck and discard pile for Tooth and Nail side steam, put it into play. Vengeance, Force Response stays the same, up to 18 hit points. Level 3 puts him up extra attack. Also gives him Retaliate 1 along with Steady and Toughness. When revealed, place 2 face-down boost cards on each identity. And Retribution, Force Response. After you attack and damage Venom with a card you control, place 1 face-down boost card on your identity. 2 face-down boost cards instead of this is the first attack this turn. Gains 20 hit points. Alright, and then his main Steam is Leave Us Alone. So Venom 1, 2, or 3. Symbiotic Strength, Standard Encounter sets, and 1 modular set Down to Earth, which we just looked at. Setup, put the bell tower environment into play, quiet side face up. So we'll see what that does in just a moment. Upon spotting you, Venom goes into a frenzy, attacking you relentlessly, causing havoc around the city. Forced Interrupt, when Venom activates against you, move each face down boost card from your identity to Venom. So as you're hitting him, he's putting these extra boost cards on your character. Then if he activates specifically against you, he's going to gain extra damage against you. It's like a retaliation. So you might want to like trade off back and forth who's going to fight him. Alright, so then up next we have the bell tower. So another environment starts into play. So location, quiet. If there are at least 3 per player chime counters here, flip this card. Interrupt. When any emotive damage would be dealt to Venom by an attack, you may place that many chime counters here instead. So when you damage Venom, you can either put damage on him, then you get them retaliate counters, or you can instead put chime counters on here. The Venom segment is very sensitive to loud noises. So when you get 3 per player, you flip it over, it becomes ringing. Increase all damage Venom takes by 1. There are no chime counters here. Flip this card. Force Interrupt. When Venom's attack would deal any emotive damage on an identity, remove that many chime counters from here. Each chime counter removed this way prevents 1 of that damage. So you're kind of trading off back and forth. So if you do damage to him, he's going to put boost cards on you, which are counter cards that are going to boost you. They'll let him do more damage to you as soon as he attacks you next. Or you can put stuff on this chime bell tower, flip it over, and be able to do a lot more damage to him quicker while it's on this side. So maybe you build up chime counters instead, then flip it over, then do a bunch of damage to him, extra damage, which then he'll retaliate against. But maybe you can take him out in like 1 or 2 hits and survive. Because also then, while this side's up, as long as there's these chime counters, any of them attacks that he came at you with are going to just start reducing chime counters first. So the more chime counters you get on there quick, then he starts preventing a little back and forth. So it's kind of an interesting little mechanic. He's got 2 copies of an attachment. Now We're Angry. Condition. Attached to Venom uses 2 rage counters. Venom's attack gains overkill. Force Response. After Venom takes any amount of damage from an attack, remove 1 rage counter from here. He has +1 attack. So again, do you damage him or do you put stuff on them bells? If he has this, you might be worth damaging him to try and get rid of this extra attack and overkill. But you gotta balance if you can get encounters on them bells, or bell counters out. So he's got some side schemes. Guard the bell tower. Treat the bell tower's printed text box as if it were blank, except for traits. When revealed, remove each chime counter from the bell tower and flip it to its quiet side. So yeah, this one kind of sucks because this comes out. You have to take care of this before you can do the other stuff. Copy of Lashing Out. Response. After Venom takes any amount of damage from an attack, remove the equal amount of threat from here. Starts with 9 and it has an accelerate icon. Boost. If this activation is an attack, it takes 2 indirect damage. And then he has this 1 card that summons Tooth and Nail. says response. After Venom takes any amount of damage, remove equal amount of threat from here. And boost activation gains piercing. So he gets those side schemes that make it a lot harder, so you have to stop and deal with them. It's got 2 copies of Biting Retort. When revealed, Venom activates against you. Each boost card turned face up during activation gets +1 boost icon. And then boost, remove 1 chime counter from the bell tower. And he's got 2 copies of For Whom the Bell Tolls. When revealed, remove 2 chime counters from the bell tower. If the bell tower is on its quiet side, take 1 damage. If it's on ringing, remove 1 threat from the main scheme. Boost. Resolve this card's when revealed ability. So it's kind of a fun little bit different for Venom. Like, you would have thought, oh, Venom's has something to do with symbiotes or doing this and that. And it's kind of neat that he has, like, a different mechanic. Like, because also you can make a Venom later that does something different. Alright, so we're going to look at a modular encounter that goes with him is Symbiotic Strength. She's got Improvised Weapons Attachment. Attached to the villain, gains a boost. Hero action, spend 1 of each resource. Discard this card. Violent Tendencies, attached to the villain. Force Response. After attached villain takes any amount of damage from an attack, give the attached villain 1 face down boost card. If the attack deals 3 or more damage to the attached villain, discard this card. Brains. And we got a third attachment, Webbed Up. Attached to your identity. Forced Interrupt. When your hero would attack, discard Webbed Up instead, then you are stunned. Boost. If you are stunned, you are stunned. If you are already stunned, take 2 damage. So that's fun. I like villains getting attachments because it kind of makes it a little makes everyone a little bit more unique. We also have 3 copies of Enraged Symbiote, which we've seen before. I believe this is the nemesis for Venom Flash Thompson. But I think a couple of them are kind of just generic, so where you get some more of them. 1 scheme, 2 attack, guard and patrol. Engage with you, cannot thwart the main scheme. Boost, put Enraged Symbiote into play engaged with you. 2 copies of Swinging Assault. When revealed, Alter Ego. Change your hero form, the villain attacks you. When revealed as a hero, the villain attacks you. Give the additional 1 boost for that activation. Don't you ever learn? And then finally, we have 1 Unstable Sentience. Surge. When revealed, give the villain a face-down boost card. And boost, if this activation is an attack, this card gets +2 boost icons. For this kill, and this attack gains overkill. So that's actually some fun different cards there. Alright, up next. So in this storyline, they realize, hey, Venom was just attacking us because he just saw Spider-Man and he goes crazy. And instead we have to fight Mysterio. This is also going to put encounter cards in your deck. So they're adding your deck face down, even if the card backs are different. The encounter cards add your discard pile or add your face up. And there's things that might deal with them, or you draw them, then you have to deal with them. The FAQ in the back of the book actually specifies that if like someone says, oh, do I have to change my sleeves out? It's like, nope. It's perfectly 100% you want to be able to see that those are different cards coming up, because they're going to have the orange backs instead of the blue backs that your player cards have. You want to know, like, oh crap, I might have 3 cards until that comes up, so you know you have to deal with it. So that's fine. Here we have Mysterio level 1. 2 scheming, 1 attacks. Now we're going to get a schemer in here. Before we get attackers, Criminal, Seeds of Fear. Force Response. After you resolve a boost card during Mysterio's activation phase, place that card in your discard pile if it has the illusion trait. Basically, you're going to screw up your stuff. You draw them, they're gonna mess up your gameplay because there are less cards that you have. That's what they do. I think they just then go to the discard pile. So they don't do anything after they're in your hand, but they are clogging up your hand. So 15 health points. His level 2, he gains an extra attack. When revealed, in player order, shuffle the top card of the encounter deck into each player's deck. And Creeping Fear, forced response. After resolve a boost card during Mysterio's activation, place a card on the bottom of your deck if it has the illusion trait. And then level 3, when revealed, discard the top 5 cards of each player's deck. Bound by Fear, forced response. After resolve a boost card during activation, place a card on the top of your deck if it has the illusion trait. So it's right where you have to deal with it. Alright, he's got multiple schemes. So he's first got the Maze of Mirrors, which is now, of course, Mysterio, Personal Nightmare, and Whispers of Paranoia. Put aside Shifting Apparition Minion. Put a Shifting Apparition Minion into play, engage with each player. So let's look at what that does. Each turn of a corner reveals countless copies of yourself, shattered panes, rebounding seamlessly to whole, and every attempt to circumnavigate the labyrinth forces you deeper within. Defeating Mysterio may be the only means of escape. Force Interrupt. When you would draw or discard an encounter card from your deck, deal it to yourself as a face-down counter deck, draw 1 card. And then, if we beat that, we have number 2, which is Edge of Reality. Mysterious manipulations of the mind have started to take its toll, blurring your perception of reality and fantasy. When revealed, in player order, shuffle the top 2 cards of each encounter deck into the player's deck. And then we have, if you don't hurry, the hallucinations may become permanent, part of your psyche, leaving you forever trapped in a nightmare. Force Interrupt. When you would draw or discard an encounter card from your deck, deal it to yourself as a face-down counter card, draw 1 card. So those are pretty mean. Alright, then we have an attachment, Humongous Hallucination, attached to Mysterio. Hero action, spend 1 resource of any type, shuffle the top 2 cards of the encounter deck into your deck, discard this card. Time to squish you like the bug you are. Gives him 3 attack, and it's an illusion. 2 copies of this attachment, Masterful Mirage, attached to Mysterio. Force Interrupt. When you would deal any amount of damage to Mysterio, discard the top 4 cards of your deck instead. Discard this card. Boost. Give Mysterio 1 additional boost for its activation. Gives him an additional scheme. And then we get 4 copies of Shifting Apparition, so you can attach them at the beginning of the game. 1 scheme, 1 attack, 1 health. Not much. An illusion. Has guard. And when defeated, if this minion was defeated with excessive damage, the defeating player shuffles the top card of the encounter deck into their deck. So if you don't want to do that, you have to hit it with 1 damage, which can be tricky. Alright, and then we have 2 copies of Deja Vu, which is a peril, and when revealed, choose to either take 1 damage or place 1 threat on the main scheme. Shuffle Deja Vu into any player's deck. Boost, reveal this card. I love that there's Iron Spider in here. He has not been revealed, but maybe it's a hint that he's coming. That'd be a nice way to give an upgrade to Peter Parker Spider-Man. And then 2 copies of Fearmonger. Surge, when revealed, discard your hand, draw up to your hand size. Boost, choose either to spend 2 genius resources or deal this card to yourself as a face-down counter card. Alright, so he doesn't have a ton of cards in his deck, but he more than makes up with it with his 2 encounters he gets. The first one is going to be Whispers of Paranoia. This one is not like the book size or the cards is not forced to be in the deck, but you can add it if you want. So essentially, if you want a little bit more difficult, throw this one in. One a little bit easier, you can take it out. Attach your identity. If you cannot ready allies or persona supports you control, alter ego action. Discard an ally or persona support to discard this card. Boost. If an ally is defeated by this attack, it takes indirect damage. Take indirect damage equal to that ally's printed cost, which could get really bad depending on how big of an ally it was. You'll get 2 of those. Get 1 copy of Manipulated Mind. Treat the attached ally as a minion with blank text box except for traits. Attached minion's steam is equal to its thwart, and it does not take consequential damage. When revealed, attach to the ally you control at the lowest cost. If you cannot, this card gains Surge. Another Stealing Allies card. 1 copy of Old Grudge. Attached minion gets +1 hit point. When revealed, search the encounter deck, discard pile, and set aside area for your nemesis minion. Then reveal that minion. Attach Old Grudge to it. Boost. Deal 1 damage to each character you control. And a lot of these have Illusion, which also are going to work well with Mysterio's effects. And then a side scheme. Analysis Paralysis. When revealed, search the encounter deck, discard pile, and set aside area for a nemesis side scheme. Then reveal it. Place X additional threat here, where X is equal to the number of threats on the side scheme. So that's kind of mean. Gonna deal with that one, plus there's extra boosts on there. Alright, then the other little modular one you need to include, which I am missing the number 1 card for that. 1 second. There it is. Alright, Personal Nightmare. So have Induced Panic Attachment, some more illusions. Attach your identity. You cannot resolve triggered abilities on your hero's printed text box. Triggered abilities are the ones with bold timing triggers, such as Alter Ego Action, kind of like that one. Discard 1 identity-specific card at random from your hand. Discard this card. You're going to get 2 copies of Evil Doppelganger. 1 steam, 1 attack, so not much there. It's also an illusion, but that's 5 health. Evil Doppelganger gets X steam and X attack, where X is equal to the number of identity-specific cards the engaged player has in hand. So basically, the more cards you have, the harder it's going to be to defeat this guy. Boost, draw 3 cards, discard 3 random cards from your hand. Some more side schemes. Fool's Paradise. This is a crazy one. 6 per player. Victory 1. When defeated, add this card to the victory display. Each identity gets +2 hand sizes. So 2 hand sizes is nice, but it also has acceleration, crisis, and extra boost. So you have to deal with this one, and you have to deal with it fast. Weakness from Within, another Iron Spidey card. The Master Stare Tactics. Mysterio uses even the slightest flinch for insight into his victims' phobias. When revealed, place 1 additional threat here for each card in your hand. It only starts off as 1, but it can easily be very, very big depending on what you have. And then finally, 2 copies of Deepest Fear, Peril, and when revealed, discard cards from the top of your deck equal to the number of cards in your hand. If at least 1 identity-specific card was discarded, place 1 threat on the main steam. If no identity were discarded, take 1 damage. Excuse me. Alright, so that's what we got for Mysterio. Alright. So here we have Venom is helping us out. So we have one other thing. We actually get to put Venom into play. So I'm going to show off him quick. So that was one of the extra cards we could get. So there's only one copy of this in the deck, or in the box, but it's an extra ally, so you can add it to anything. Like, according to this, you're only supposed to add it while you're playing the game, and when it tells you to. Conceivably, you could put it in any deck if you really wanted to. Nothing's going to stop you. It's your type of game. But it's a 4 cost, 6 health, 2 thwart, 3 attack, symbiote. So he's supposed to join someone as you're playing through the campaign, because he joins up with you. Response. After you deal an encounter card, deal 1 damage to Venom. Deal 1 damage to an enemy equal to the number of star and boost icons in that card's area, but he also adds 1 encounter every turn. So, yeah, he's a nice ally to have, but he's also going to kind of be bad because he's going to draw extra cards. Yeah, so that's something that he's definitely one that can happen. There are other little side schemes for the campaign that they mentioned can come out, but I'll show them off at the end after we're done going through all the villains. Just because Venom is going to go on shot. So, what would Spider-Man villains be without the Sinister Six? So we're going to fight them. The Sinister Six have an active counter and an activation order. So we'll go over that as I show off the characters. So they are very different and unique. So we're going to start off with Dr. Octopus. So generally every villain so far has had like level 1, level 2, level 3. With the few exceptions, Loki had the ability to switch between different level 1 forms, and the Wrecking Crew, you played all 4 at once. So the Sinister Six, you potentially might be fighting all 6 at once. You might be fighting 1 or 2 at a time. Kind of just depends on how they decide to attack you, or what you can deal. So they're all going to have this activation order. So it's activation order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they're going to take going in incremental order attacking. So you can kind of determine who might attack you next. Or who the next threat. They kind of like attack one at a time like dumb villains do. But they're all level 1. So we have Dr. Octopus, 2 steam, 2 attack, which says Force Response. After Dr. Octopus attacks and damages you, place 1 threat counter on each steam. Move the active counter to the next villain in activation order. When defeated, remove 4 threat from the side steam. 7 threat instead if there are no other villains in play. Set this villain aside. Yeah, so he only has 8 hit points. So these guys, instead of having number per player, they each have a set amount. They're not all the same. But you defeat them, then they're out of the lineup. So you can like, oh crap, I don't want to deal with, the third one. I can take him out first. Or if I don't want to deal with Doc Ock, take him out before his activation comes up and they skip. And then stuff happens. And then things will bring them back into play as well. So as long as the main steam's out, you might defeat the villains, but you might still have to keep playing. So that's interesting too. Alright, so there's Doc Ock. The other thing I noticed on these is these guys don't have keywords. Like all the other villains and characters always have something like criminal or like Masters of Evil or Wrecking Crew or whatever. These guys don't have that. So then we have Electro, 2 steaming, 1 attack. Force Response. After Electro attacks and damages, you discard the top 7 cards of your deck. Move the active counter to the next villain in activation order. So he's going to attack and it's just going to move it to the next guy. When defeated, remove 4 threat from the side scheme, 7 if there are no other villains. Set this villain aside. Third up, we've got Hobgoblin. 2 steam, 1 attack. After Hobgoblin attacks and damages you, take 2 indirect damage. Move the activation counter to the next villain. When defeated, 4 threat or 7 threat. Craven the Hunter. 1 steaming, 2 attack. After Craven the Hunter attacks and damages you, choose and discard 1 support or upgrade card you control. And then move the activation counter. And the same thing with 4 threat or 7. Scorpion, 0 steaming, but 3 attack. He's also got the most health. I didn't show health, I guess, right? Mention it. So Doc Ock has 8. Electro has 8. Hobgoblin gets 9. Craven gets 9. Scorpion gets 10. A little bit more armored. After Scorpion attacks you, stun character you control, move the activation counter, and then the same thing for when defeated. And then finally the Vulture, who only has 7. After the Vulture attacks and damages you, choose and discard 1 card from your hand, and then move the counter. So yeah, they each have a response when they attack, and then they move to the next guy, and then the next turn they get to attack. There's going to be other cards that are going to shuffle those around, of course. So we have Sinister Synchronization. Says use all these different guys. Use the Guerrilla Tactics and Standard Counter set. It says choose up to X villains in a random number where X is 1 more than the number of players. Put those villains into play. Place the active counter on the villain at the lowest activation. Set the other villains aside. Put the light at the end steam into play. Trap side face up. So we'll get that one in a minute. So ambush special. Choose a set aside villain at random. Put that villain into play and place the activation counter on it. In expert mode, place 2 threats on light at the end. Force interrupt. When a villain would activate, if no villain is in play, resolve this card's ambush ability. Continue that activation. So there's where it's at. You can tactically defeat them all, but then when this comes up, then one is going to come back into play anyhow. So they're not going to ever actually truly be defeated by defeating just them. Then we have Part 2, which is Sinister Beatdown. The 6 villains are more confident than ever, determined to bring about your end once and for all. Choose a set aside a villain at random, put that villain into play, and place the active counter on it, even if another villain already has the counter. If no villain is put into play, or this is expert mode, deal the first player 1 face down encounter card. So there's already all of them are sitting out. And then ambush special, same as the other one. Force interrupt when a villain would activate, no villain activates, continues. It's the same one, just if it's complete, you lose the game. Alright, and then we have the special side scheme, like at the end, trap, permanent, hinder 10. So 10 per player. Players cannot win unless they escape. Force interrupt. When the last threat is removed from this scheme, resolve the ambush ability on the main scheme. Flip this card to the other side. The players can escape on the other side. So it gets 10 every turn, and it starts at 10 per player. So this is going to take a while to defeat. So basically, more or less, your goal is to do this to try and win, less than trying to defeat the villain. You gotta defeat the villain so you can work on this. But yeah, you don't want to spend too much time just defeating the villain and not doing this. It's kind of a nice little different way to play this. Players cannot win unless they escape. Force interrupt. When the last threat is removed from the scheme, the players escape and win the game. So it starts with a lot less, but you have to keep constantly focusing your attention back on. Not only do you have to focus on defeating the villain, but you also have to try and get rid of these too. If this stage is complete, the players lose the game. You could potentially get rid of those main schemes, and then just have to worry about this one, and eventually get rid of all the villains. That's another way to do it as well. Alright. So then we're going to get some attachments. We have 2 copies of Heightened Morale Condition. When attached to the villain with the highest activation order value, you cannot resolve ambush. Then attach this card to the active villain. X is equal to the number of villains in play. 2 copies of Taunting Presence. Attach to the villain with the most remaining hit points. If you cannot resolve ambush, attach this to them. threat cannot be removed from light at the end, so you have to take that guy out first. 1 copy of Team Leader, which is a title. Attach to the villain with the lowest activation. If you cannot resolve ambush and then attach to them, adds crisis to them, so you have to take out the leader first. I like how each one of these pictures, though, too, has the other members in the back. So, like, this one focuses on Scorpion. But you got, like, Electro, Doc Ock, and them in the back. This one doesn't, however, but that's also more like almost a Demon Goblin more than a Hobgoblin. Again, yeah, here you got, Craven and them guys in the back. Then we have Take 1 for the team, which is Craven center. Attach to the villain with the highest attack. If you cannot resolve ambush and attach to them, you cannot attack villains if you do not have an attached copy of Take 1 for the team, so it forces you to take care of them. We are going to get a side scheme. Brute Force Barricade. Victory 1. And threats cannot be removed from other side schemes. Boost. Give the villain 1 additional boost card for this activation. We have some team-up cards, which are really fun too. Frequent Flyers. Hobgoblin and the Vulture. In Expert Mode, this card gains Insight 1 and cannot be cancelled. When revealed, set aside Hobgoblin and Vulture into play. If Hobgoblin is already in play, take 2 indirect damage. If Vulture is in play, discard 1 card random from your hand. We got High Fashion. Expert Mode, this card gains Insight 1 and cannot be cancelled. Set aside Electro and Craven. If Electro is already in play, discard the highest cost card you control. If Craven is in play, discard the lowest card cost you control. So these cards can definitely be devastating. Got some robotic enhancements. Expert Mode gains Insight, can't be cancelled. When revealed, put Doc Ock and Scorpion into play. If Doc Ock is already in play, confuse the character. If Scorpion's in play, stun them. Then we have 2 copies of Partnership of Pain. When revealed, Alter Ego, the villain with the lowest activation. In order schemes with X steam, where X is equal to the total steam of all other villains in play. Or, when revealed, if you're in hero form, the hero with the highest activation order attacks you with X is equal to all other villains in play. Again, keeping these guys knocked down will keep you alive. Ooh, we got, 3 copies of that. And then we have 3 copies of Surprise, which is a fun little one here. In Expert Mode, this card gains Surge and cannot be cancelled. When revealed, resolve the ambush ability on the main scheme. If no villain was put into play, place 3 threats at the light at the end. So that is the fun Sinister Six set. The activation, like guys coming back and forth, having to take out the Sinister Six, trying to work on the main scheme, work on the side scheme so you can escape. Gives you a little bit of rush because you're like, oh, this guy's back, I have to take him out, or can you leave 1 or 2 there? How long do you leave 1 or 2 out? Then to add on to that, they have Guerrilla Tactics. So we're going to get 2 copies of that. Life-size decoy, 0 steam, 0 attack, 5 health. In Expert Mode, life-size decoy gains toughness. Engaged player cannot thwart side schemes. Boost, put this minion into play engaged with you. So yeah, extra thing to deal with, right? Some side schemes here, coordinated efforts. Each enemy gains an acceleration icon. Boost, place a threat on each scheme. In Extra Mode, place 1 additional threat on the main scheme. Hidden in Shadows. Each enemy gains 1 hazard icon. Boost, deal 1 indirect damage to each player. Expert, deal an additional indirect damage to the first player. Teamwork makes the dream work. Each enemy gains 1 steam and 1 attack. Boost, Expert Mode, this card gets +2 boost icons for its activation. I love that the Scorpion is throwing the Vulture. I love like that Doc Ock guy. And then 2 copies of From Every Direction. In Expert Mode, this card gains Surge. When revealed, place 1 threat on the main Steam for each enemy in play. Like Darkness Dances with Sinister Motives. Sinister Motives, that's the name of the set. It's fun. So yeah, that's a nice little encounter. You can definitely see how that could be fun to add into other games as well. Alright, so then we have our final villain. Who's it going to be? None other than the Green Goblin, or so we thought. It's Venom Goblin. So yeah, he uses a glider counter. This also has a neat little mode. So we'll go over that. So this is the 3rd Green Goblin that we can fight, because you have Norman Osborn into Green Goblin, you have just the Green Goblin, and now you can fight Venom Goblin. If you want a 3 Goblin campaign there. So level 1 has 2 Steam, 2 attack. He's a Goblin and a Symbiote. Steady. Infest the city. Force response. After Venom Goblin activates against you, move the glider counter to the main Steam with the least threat. Choose to either place 2 threat on that Steam or resolve its special ability. 16 health. And then his level 2, he gains an attack, gains steady, toughness. When revealed, deal 2 face down counters to each player. Claim the throne. Force response. After Goblin Venom activates against you, move the glider to the main Steam with the least threat. Resolve its special ability. And level 3, he has 3 attack, 3 Steam. Retaliate 1. Instead of steady, it becomes stalwart. And when revealed, deal 3 face down counters to each player. Reign of Terror. After Venom Goblin activates against you, move the glider to the main Steam with the least threat. Place 1 threat on that Steam and resolve its special ability. Alright, so he's got a couple of interesting different main Steams. So we have, starting with Skies Over New York, because it's the one with the setup on it. So you have the Venom Goblins. You include Symbiotic Strength from the Venom, showed in the Venom set earlier. Standard Encounter, and potentially you can use modular Goblin gear if you like. And then set up, put the Lower Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan, Upper Manhattan Steams into play. Place the glider on Midtown Manhattan and flip this card. Set it aside. So, Skies Over New York is going to say this. An environment. It's kind of like a rules card, essentially. Player cards that affect the main Steam can apply to any of the main Steam, and counter cards that affect the main Steam only apply to the Steam with the glider counter, including placing it in acceleration tokens. The main Steam accumulates threat each round according to its acceleration value, and any acceleration tokens on that Steam. So we're going to get Lower Manhattan, a global hub of commerce. Many citizens in Lower Manhattan staying focused on the bottom line, distracted from the Goblin Venom's attempts to upstir the city. Special, place 1 threat on each Steam. If a symbiote environment is in play, place 1 additional threat on the Steam. Then we have Midtown Manhattan. The iconic buildings and bustling streets of Midtown Manhattan steer the Goblin Venom's movements overhead. Special, take 2 indirect damage if a symbiote environment is played. Take 1 additional indirect damage. And then we have Upper Manhattan. Residents of Upper Manhattan enjoy a sunny day around Central Park, unaware of Goblin Venom's plot to infest their community. Special, discard 1 card from your hand if a symbiote environment is in play. Discard the top 4 cards of your deck. So that's all of their different things. But what also happens is, as you beat them, as stuff happens, they evolve. So Lower Manhattan can become the location symbiote. When revealed, move the glider counter and each acceleration token from here to the main Steam with the least threat. If there are at least 2 symbiote environments in play, the players lose the game. So if he takes control of 2 different areas, you lose. And as one of them activates, it makes the other ones harder. Midtown Manhattan, when revealed, move the glider counter to each acceleration token from here to another main scheme. And the same thing with this one. They do the same thing, and then it makes some other ones even harder to fight. So what does he also do against us? He has We Are One attachment. Attached to Venom Goblin. Spend 1 of each printed resources, to discard. Otherwise, it has 3 scheme and 3 attack. So you definitely want to take that out. Green Goblin is pathetic and weak, but we are more powerful than he had ever dreamed. We get 2 copies of Symbiote Berserker. 0 steam but 3 attack, 5 health. While Symbiote environment is in play, Symbiote Berserker gains Quick Strike. Boost, move the glider counter to the main scheme. The most threat, place 1 threat on that scheme. You're also going to get a Symbiotic Monstrosity. 2 steam, 2 attack, 6 health with a star. Retaliate 1, steady, toughness. While a symbiote environment is in play, the symbiote gains plus 3 hit points. And boost. The activation of this attack, the attack deals indirect damage. We're also going to get 4 copies of Symbiotic Thrall. 1 steam, 2 attack, 4 health. Guard, when symbiote environment is played, it gains patrol. Boost, place the threat on each main scheme without the glider counter. So as you play through, you lose them schemes get taken over, or the environments get taken over. They basically make everything more difficult. So losing one thing is going to make it a lot harder. Festering Mass. When there are no other symbiote environments in play, this card is considered to be a symbiote environment. Ugh, so that makes that even suckier too. Joyride. Hinder 2, and when revealed, move the main glider token to the scheme with the most threat. Resolve that scheme's special ability. And then the last 2 cards for the Venom Goblin are Spreading Panic. Surge, when revealed, resolve the special ability of the scheme with the glider counter. Boost, reveal the special ability on the scheme with the glider counter. That's some creepy artwork too. So that's definitely fun. Alright, so that was it for Green Goblin. A little bit different, but fun. Alright, so then the encounter they mention is Goblin Gear. So we're going to get a bunch of different attachments, but we can also be used with other goblins. The other Green Goblin or Norseman Osborn deck, or throw it with anybody. Load people up with all this goblin-y goodness. So we have Advanced Glider. Item tech attached to the villain. Force Response. After the attacked villain activates against you, it activates against you again. Limit once per round. And Hero Actions. Discard any number of attack cards from your hand, or a combined resource cost of 3 or more to discard this card. We're going to get some bombs. Some Concussive Bombs. Item, or tech weapon. Uses 2 bomb counters. Force Response. After the villain attacks you, remove 1 bomb counter from here. Exhaust 1 upgrade and 1 support you control. The concussive force is created so powerful enough to fracture steel. What if we wanted some incendiary bombs? Uses 2 bomb counters as well. Force Response. After the villain attacks, you can remove 1 bomb counter here to take 2 indirect damage. Filled with highly combustible fuel that burns with scorching intensity. What if we want to try out some smoke bombs? Attached to the villain, uses 2 bomb counters, gains plus 1 attack as well. After the villain attacks, you move 1 bomb counter from here. Discard the 1 event from your hand with the lowest cost. Thick, noxious smoke from these bombs can quickly incapacitate even the toughest of foes. We get a side scheme. Limitless supply. Norman Osborn has been busy crafting and stockpiling tech, granting himself and his fellow evildoers enormous cache of gadgets and weaponry. Each tech attachment gains Surge. Oh boy. And then finally we have Remote Navigation. When revealed, if Advanced Glider is in play, the villain activates against you. If not, search the encounter deck and discard pile and reveal it. Boost. Give the villain 2 additional boost cards for this activation. Alright, yeah, so that could definitely be fun to throw in somewhere. Alright, so then we just got the end of the plot. They defeat the bad guy, capture the symbiote, go home, talk with their family. Then we have the page where it talks about the characters. Just giving you the little bit of information, what's in the deck. And there's Miles's, Spider-Man's. Some different other stuff. And then the campaign and that. So, then the last thing we have to go over on here, we got a couple other encounters to go through that we did not see. So we're going to jump into those. So these are the extra modular ones that aren't listed as being in a deck. So since we just talked about Green Goblin and Norman Osborn, we have some Osborn tech. So he can add some deadly weaponry to his fellow spider foes. Arm cannon attachment. Tech weapon Surge attached to the villain. Attached villain gains overkill and piercing. Hero action, discard the highest cost upgrade you control to discard this card. The Ionic Boots, Surge attached to the villains, and item tech. Force response, after attached villain attacks and damages your identity, place 2 threats on the main scheme. Hero, spend each resource, discard this card. Kinetic Armor, Armor Tech, Surge, attached to the villain. Villain gains Retaliate 1. Hero action, take 3 indirect damage to discard this card. Neocarbon Scales, Surge, attached to the villain. Reduce the amount of damage each villain. Attached villain takes from each attack by 1. Hero action, give the villain a tough status card and 1 face down boost card to discard this card. Some spiked gauntlets for the Rhino of all people. Tech weapon Surge attached to the villain. Villain attacks you after the attack ends. If your identity took no damage from that attack, discard this card. This is +1 attack. And the last one is tracking display. Item Tech Surge. It's just funny to see the wizard with cyborg eye. Each character cannot be defeated. It's not defended against attached villains' attacks. Hero action, exhaust a character you control and discard 1 random card from your hand to discard this card. Yeah, so nothing but nasty stuff to make the villains even harder. Alright, now our last major modular encounter is Sinister Assaults. Now you can play as a Sinister Six in any set. So we have Doc Ock, 2 steam, 2 attack, 6 health. It's just funny, they all actually have 6 health. Elite, Genius, Insight, Villainous. Force response, after Dr. Octopus activates against you, place 1 threat on the steam. Now watch me trap a spider in a web of my own, a web made of newfound arms. We have Electro. Criminal Elite, Retaliate 1, Villainous. After Electro engages you or activates against you, you discard cards from the top of your deck until you discard an energy or wild resource. With my great power, nothing can stop me. Hobgoblin. Aerial Elite, Patrol, Villainous. Force response, after Hobgoblin attacks, take 2 indirect damage. You don't know how much I'm going to enjoy this. Craven the Hunter. Steady, Villainous. Force response, after Craven the Hunter attacks and damages your character you control, discard 1 upgrade or support you control. My knives and skills are sharpened. Scorpion. Brute Elite, Tough and Villainous. Force response, after Scorpion attacks and damages a character, stun that character. If it's already stunned, deal 2 damage to it. Spider-Man's last stand, wouldn't miss it for the world. I haven't been reading off any of their effects. So we have, Doc Ock has 2 and 2. Electro is 2 steaming, 1 attack. Hobgoblin's 1 steam and 2 attack. Craven's also 1 steam, 2 attack. Scorpion's 1 steam, 3 attack. I think they pretty much mirror their other forms. And Vulture's 1 steam, 1 attack, and his aerial, elite, quick strike, villainous, and force response. After Vulture activates against you, discard 1 random card from your hand. Nobody hates the wall crawler like I do. So that's fun. I know a couple of the other characters that are already in other encounters, like Scorpion and Electro. But yeah, you can just add this in to like make them like a quick one rather than adding 6 different encounters. So that's kind of fun. So now there are some campaign encounters. There's the bad publicity, which is added in during certain campaign modes, which is why it says specifically campaign on it. So standard mode only. Victory 1 uses 2 notoriety counters. Response after a minion or side steam is defeated. Remove 1 notoriety counter from here. And it's a double-sided card, so you can flip it over for expert. Victory 1 uses 3. After a minion is defeated, remove 1 notoriety counter. Then we have Smear Campaign. In expert mode, this card gains Surge. When revealed, if public outcry is in play, place 2 notoriety counters on it. Then remove this card from the game. If public outcry is not in place 2 threat on the main scheme. So that was just adds a little bit of extra difficulty. Then we have the campaign Community Service. So Back Alley Burglary. Surge Victory 1. Force Response. After you thwart this scheme, choose to either spend a fist resource or discard 1 random card from your hand. We're going to help a cat in a tree. Surge 1, Victory 1. As an additional cost to thwart the scheme, take 2 indirect damage. Henchman Heist. Surge Victory 1. Force Response. After any amount of threat is removed from the scheme, place equal amount of threat on the main scheme. Off the Rails, Surge and Victory 1. Force Interrupt. When the villain phase begins, place 1 speed counter here. If there are at least 2 speed counters here, remove this card from the game and discard the top 3 cards of each player's deck. And the last one is Rubble Rescue. Surge, Victory 1. Interrupt. When this character makes a basic thwart against a side scheme, they may use their attack instead of their thwart. So it's kind of like other things characters might have to do. Then the last one is a 1-card one, which is Snitches Get Stitches. -1 victory. Attached to Venom, Eddie Brock. If you cannot, is gain Surge. Force Interrupt. When a villain attacks, it attacks Venom. That attack defeats Venom, add Venom and this card to the victory display. Action. Exhaust Venom and spend 2 resources of the same type to discard this card. So just a little flavor thing they threw in there. Then there are 2 other special types of cards. So there are campaign cards you can gain, which are Shield Tech. So we get Compact Darts. So these are added throughout the game with the reputation thing. You put these in there. Basically, they make your deck better, but they don't add to your deck amount. So each side's going to have a regular and an enhanced version. So they're going to be set up, you get them, they're permanent, they come into play, they start in play. So you have Compact Darts, Hero Response. After your hero attacks, move 1 dart counter from here, deal 1 damage to an enemy. Alter Ego Action, spend 1 resource of any type, place 3 dart counters on here. And then it's Enhanced Side. Remove up to 1 dart counter to deal 1 damage to 2 different enemies. And then otherwise you can place 3 dart counters. Then we're going to get Impact Dampening Suit. Your identity is +2 hit points and Hero Interrupt. When the villain phase begins, spend 1 resource of any type until the end of the phase. Reduce the amount of damage your hero takes by each enemy attacked by 1. Or Enhanced, you gain 3 hit points. And the bottom is the same. We have some laser goggles. Hero gets -1 thwart, but gains 1 attack, and basic attacks gain overkill. Or, you still get -1 thwart, but now you get 2 attack, gain overkill and piercing. Propulsion gauntlets. Exhaust propulsion gauntlets to take 2 indirect damage to ready your hero. You take some damage, but you get ready to do stuff. Or, exhaust your hero to take 2 indirect damage. Ready your hero, gain 1 thwart, 1 attack, 1 defense till the end of turn. So some of these you gotta decide, like when you're playing a campaign, maybe the regular side's not that worth it to you, or maybe it's not as helpful. But the enhanced side later on might be a lot better. Might be worth sticking around for it. We have Retinal Display. Your hero's basic thwart power can only remove threat from the scheme with the most threat. Your hero displays 1 threat, or thwart, and your hero's thwarts can ignore crisis icons. So let's just target the main one, but you also get a little bit of advantage for it. Or, same top thing, but you get 2 thwart and you can ignore crisis and patrol keywords. Shock Knuckles. Hero response: after your hero makes a basic attack against an enemy, discard the top card of the encounter deck. If no boost icons were discarded this way, stun that enemy. And your hero gets +1 attack. Makes a basic attack. If there's 1 or fewer boost icons, discard to stun the enemy. So if you really want to make the game more fun, you can include these in just any game instead of just the regular campaign. Maybe after you beat before you beat a villain, draw one. It helps boost your game up a little bit. Makes the later villains a little bit easier. Or give your character one of these and then play hard mode. Wave bracers. Your hero gets -1 attack, but you gain 1 defense and gain retaliate 1 and steady. Instead, you gain 2 defense, gain retaliate 1 and stalwart, so you can't be confused or stunned. The last one is Risk Navigator. Force response. After a minion in a side scheme enters play, attach Risk Navigator to it. Interrupt when the attached card is defeated, draw 1 card, return this card to your play area. And then the enhanced version is minion your side scheme enters play, attach Risk Navigator to it. When it is defeated, draw 2 cards and then discard 1 card from your hand. Alright. Then the last final cards we have is we get 4 copies of another card that gets added. This one doesn't have a campaign. It's kind of like the Venom set. It gets added during the campaign by doing stuff. But it's an upgrade, costs 4 to play. Max 1 per deck. Your identity gets +1 to each of its basic powers, +1 hand size, and +10 hit points. Yeah, so no downside to it. It's definitely a great extra card to have. Give yourself a symbiotic suit. The only downside is you like Venom. So when we ally Venom here, because he's a symbiote, you gain that extra to draw 1 extra card. Whether that's worth having extra power, hand size, and 10 hit points again. And this is also something like the other Shield Tech cards or other campaign cards from different sets. You could include these in your decks right away, or make your own campaign somehow. I defeat villain 1. I get a choice of these number of cards or whatever. And stuff like that. You can make up your own little game with it. That might be fun to play, and then play a harder mode. Easy mode's too easy, but hard mode's too hard. Give yourself an advantage. Alright, so that's Sinister Motives. We get the 2 new Spider characters. We're looking forward to the other champions and Spider-Mens. See who else we all get. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.